Connor Bedard with a big game as Chicago overcomes a 3-goal deficit. Carolina and Calgary in the Dougie Hamilton Bowl couldn't decide it in regulation. The Isles in their first game after losing Kyle Palmieri for the rest of the season. Could they rally at home while Ottawa and Dallas square off a rare Sunday night home game in the fall in Dallas? All that and more coming up on Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before, only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hockey fans, welcome into Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Your teams every day on Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of all the night's action in the NHL during the regular season and the playoffs, whether it's one game, 16, or everything in between. We're always here with the latest for you. We're available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. I'm Alex Wiederspiel. I write about hockey for Yardbarker. I hang here on Locked On NHL Game Night a couple nights a week. He's Shukri Wrights from 97.5 The Fanatic. Here on Game Night, you can get the latest on all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from the night in the NHL with a big assist from our Locked On local experts. Shoot, it was a pretty good night. It was a quiet night, only 4 games tonight, but there were some really, really good ones in this one from Chicago out to Carolina and Calgary. That was a fun one. And then there were a couple of blowouts as well.
I mean, sometimes it's not necessarily about the quantity, it's the quality of games. And tonight definitely did not lack in quality of games, considering that it was a lighter night around the National Hockey League.
And we're going to start with arguably the best one of the night. Certainly, it was the most entertaining one of the night. Chicago and Anaheim, a 5-3 final in this one for the Blackhawks, and they scored 5 unanswered to end the game. They fell behind 3-0. The Ducks scored twice in the opening moments of this game. I think it was 2 goals in 26 seconds to take the initial lead. And then Connor Bedard with a big night, 4 points to lead the comeback effort. We're going to get into all of this, but first, want to hear from Jack Bushman from Locked On Chicago Blackhawks.
The Blackhawks snapped their 5-game losing streak with a massive comeback victory over the Anaheim Ducks, taking them down 5-3 at the United Center. The game didn't start too well, though, for the Blackhawks as they fell behind 2-0 in the opening minute and then went on to surrender a 3rd goal to the Ducks later on in the period. But they rallied back, got a late power play goal from Tyler Bertuzzi in the first, then managed to tie it up in the second, and Connor Bedard with a dazzling game-winning goal also went on to add the empty netter as part of a 4-point game. He continues to own the Ducks. This was one the Blackhawks really needed before their upcoming 4-game road trip, which will begin on Tuesday in Vegas. For more takeaways from this game, make sure to check out tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blackhawks.
So, Shu, I like to think I pay pretty close attention to the NHL and to the stats. How close? How many points do you think Connor Bedard has after tonight?
That's a good question. I'm gonna go on a wild guess and say, I don't know, man. Actually, hold on. I think I do know. I'm gonna go and say 37 points total.
Yeah. 37 after a 4-point night tonight. So I was doing the math earlier because I was like, I knew he was having a good season. But then I just started doing the math in my head and I was like, this is like Nikita Kucherov stuff. He's on pace for 121 points here in the 3rd season of his career. Now, look, he might not get there, but let me ask you a question before we jump over to the Ducks. Connor Bedard at season's end, over or under 99.5 points. Basically, will Connor Bedard have his first 100-point season in the NHL?
Book it. I think he will. I think that just solely based on the fact that I've seen growth in his game, especially of late. And I mean, no one should be surprised if it happened this season, in which that everybody knew Connor Bedard coming into the NHL was a really special talent, a generational talent at that. So if he in fact cracks the century mark in terms of points, it would not surprise anybody. I don't think it should have anyway, but I think he could potentially like get to, let's say, about 110 at least.
I love it. I love that prediction. Hey, let's talk about the Ducks for a second. We're going to bring in Kyle Carr in just a moment to help us do that. One big concern for them tonight, outside of the fact that they allowed 5 unanswered goals to end this game, is that their goaltending. They're already down Lucas Dostal for a couple of weeks battling an injury, and then tonight the backup goaltender, who's now obviously going to be, in theory, taking a bunch more work, also goes down in the third period of this one. Weird looking play for Peter Mrazek. He's not able to finish, and Ville Husso comes in, faces one shot. It's Connor Bedard who does just a disgusting move to score the goal, and then doesn't face another shot on goal. How concerned about Anaheim down not one but potentially 2 goalies moving forward?
I mean, they should be concerned. I mean, you talk about injuries piling up at the wrong time for this team, in which that, like a big part of the reason why they have been like certainly successful is the quality goaltending that they have gotten. Like I'm worried about what is the status of Lucas Dostal at this point, and now you can also include Peter Mrazek as well. So I wonder like what are the Ducks going to do in terms of the goalie situation now, given that they have 2 goalies that are going to be missing considerable time with the aforementioned Dostal, who's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks with the upper body injury. So I wonder if you're the Anaheim Ducks, like, hey, like, do you break the glass and pull the emergency brake and make calls down to the minor league level for emergency help, or do you sort of look to like the waiver wire and see what's available?
And I will be honest, I don't think it's much available on the waiver wire, but that's a question for another day. Kyle Carr has got the word from Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
It was a tough loss for the Anaheim Ducks, and there is some bad blood brewing in Chicago. The Ducks just cannot win in that city, and the Ducks had a 3-goal lead early in the first period and then squandered it to a 5-3 loss, and there's some words being exchanged between Bedard and McTavish, and then the final buzzer goes and things explode. There's a bunch of altercations, and there's something brewing here between these two teams. Anaheim just definitely crushed after this blow. Peter Mrazek goes out of the game with what looks like could be a groin injury, so we got to hear about that. And now the depth of the Anaheim goaltending going to be tested with possibly Husso out and Dostal's out for 2 to 3 weeks. Or not Husso, sorry, Mrazek is out, and now Dostal out for 2 to 3 weeks. So tough break for the Ducks here. Fly together.
First little bit of adversity for Anaheim. We'll have to keep an eye on how they respond to that. Washington Capitals, New York Islanders. This was an interesting one. There were long stretches of this game that it felt like the Islanders were in control of, but the place where they never were in control was in on the scoreboard. And as this game moved along, Washington took further and further control away from the Islanders, who could just not solve Logan Thompson. A 4-1 final, 3 points for Tom Wilson. We're going to break it all down, but first let's hear from Dan Jaime of Locked On Washington Capitals.
Make it 4 wins in a row. Hi, this is Dan Jaime of Locked On Capitals. While the Caps down the aisles in some Sunday matinee action by a score of 4-1, and Tom Wilson puts up 2 goals in this game, a power play goal, which the Capitals don't do too often, and he also makes the most of an opportunity with Sorokin out of position. In any event, on pace here for a 100-point season, his 15th goal of the season. That puts him in some elite company, the top 5 in the NHL in goals. As far as in net, Logan Thompson was part of the secret sauce of the Capitals' success, saving 30 of 31. Some fun moments in the game as Schaefer and Leonard were mixing it up. You kind of see the future stars mixing it up out there on the ice. All things considered, the Capitals played very well. Alex Ovechkin continues to score goals, an empty netter, albeit. That is good for career goal number 909. The Capitals hope they can keep it going as they head out west. I'll have much more on this for you later on Locked On Caps.
Much appreciated, Dan. And all of a sudden, Shu, I remember being like mildly concerned about Washington, but only mildly when they went on their big losing streak. They've now won 7 of their last 8. And all of a sudden, just like that, they're not just back in the thick of things, but they have made the Metro Division look incredibly difficult when you look at the way they're playing, when you look at the way the Flyers are playing, look at the way the Hurricanes are playing. They all look pretty good at the moment, but Washington gets the win over the Islanders. Their first game without Kyle Palmieri doesn't go their way.
I'm not surprised because, listen, Alex, they have been underachieving up until this point. So for the Capitals to now be on this hot streak where they're right back in the midst of the Metropolitan Division should surprise absolutely nobody. I was wondering what was exactly wrong. In fact, I believe we did a show together where we were wondering, like, what's going on with the Capitals? Like, why have they been struggling mightily the way that they were at that time? Now they're looking like the Capitals team that was dominant a season ago. So you gotta like what you saw tonight. Alexander Ovechkin, goal number 909. Ho hum. He's just 91 goals away from 1,000. I mean, hold your breath. Like, we'll see what happens. But Logan Thompson, for as much as, seriously, his performance tonight should really give Capital fans a lot of confidence moving forward that they're going to get back to receiving quality goaltending on a nightly basis. And I think that, like tonight, like they did a pretty good job against this Islander team that, let's face it, like it's been a disappointing 7-game homestand so far, 1-3 and 1 through the first 5 games. And I thought that the Capitals really were aggressive in this game in terms of, attacking the Islanders' weaknesses and making them pay.
That they did. Ovechkin also with a really dirty dish in this one on the power play. In his spot, you think he's going to score from? He winds up actually setting up Tom Wilson. Kind of banked it in off of Tom Wilson. When we come back, we had of course a battle of East meets West. I'm jokingly referring to it as the Dougie Hamilton Bowl. We'll talk about that among other things. Dallas with an absolute monster performance tonight. That's all coming up here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Now, our show brought to you in part today by our friends over at Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, and mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. Doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power, no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop is not your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands. Using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and more than 90% of top college and pro teams. I like using Drip Drop as part of my daily routine. I'll mix a packet in the morning before work, and hydration now has just become non-negotiable for me. Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and better overall. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off of your first order. Go to dripdrop.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. Dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard, and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. All right, so Carolina and Calgary meeting in the, whether it's the Dougie Hamilton or the Elias Lindholm Bowl, whatever you want to call it. But Carolina and Calgary, we only see them twice a year, and they made one of my favorite trades in NHL history. I love when teams swing big, and of course that was one of my all-time favorites. This one was a really low event game. There were some real quality chances in this one. Like the goaltenders, despite the fact that there were only 32 shots combined in this game, the goaltenders had to make some grade A saves in this one, and they did it all the way up until overtime, where it just felt like Calgary, I'm not sure they ever touched the puck in overtime, honestly. Carolina just kept coming in waves. Nikolai Ehlers eventually gets the winner. We're going to break it all down here, but first, let's give Zach Martin a chance to have his word from Locked On Carolina Hurricanes.
The Carolina Hurricanes win 1-0 in overtime thanks to a Nikolai Ehlers goal. Crazy game where it's like 17 shots for the Hurricanes, 15 for the Flames. Brandon Bussey picks up his first ever AHL shutout. He's now 7-1 on the season. The Hurricanes are winners of back-to-back games, and now they just keep rolling. Like I said, Ehlers picks up his 5th goal of the year. What a crazy game of low shooting. So few chances here and there, but in the end, the Hurricanes got the win. That's all you really ask for. And now you have 3 days off, and you take on Toronto later in the week.
So here's where I'm kind of with on this one. This was a really good game, and you and I have talked about this. I've talked about this with Eddie. I feel like we've all talked about how impressed we are with, like, Calgary is not giving up on the season. They seem to give everybody a really hard time, but they just don't have enough in a game like this. And you really saw that in overtime, the difference between these two.
You saw, and you saw, I think, the talent difference as well. Or should I say the depth of talent difference between Carolina and Calgary. I mean, listen, you want to know something that's interesting?
Always.
Who was the player who scored the overtime winner for Carolina in this one? Nikolai Ehlers. And why do I think it's interesting? Free agent signing, formerly of the Winnipeg Jets. He's the one that comes up huge in this one. And for me, when I think about, and I talked about it on other game night episodes before, when you are a team in the NHL and you're looking to make like waves, make big moves, whether if it's like in the offseason during the summer or at the trade deadline, for example, you're looking to make impactful moves that's going to help your roster. And when the Hurricanes signed Nikolai Ehlers, I thought that this was a massive move at the time. And tonight, he scores the O-team winner for the Carolina Hurricanes. And I think that he's certainly been a big part of what the Hurricanes have been able to do. And as well as you got to give credit to what credit's due. I thought this was a tremendous goaltending duel between Brandon Bussey and Devin Cooley, who, for me, honestly, Alex, I'm starting to think that Calgary just might actually have something in Devin Cooley out there.
Yeah, he's actually had a really nice stretch run, and he was playing well. He was even playing well when Dustin Wolf wasn't. So, like, they might have their 2 Californian goaltenders in Calgary. Something's working there. Real quick, before we move on, any thought here that the Metro Division, you look at right now, Carolina at the top. New Jersey, we talked about last night without Jack Hughes. They're 4-4, which is honestly better than I think anyone could have hoped for. Missing Hughes for 8 weeks or so. Is the Metro A, the best division in the league, B, the deepest division in the league, or C, both? Or I guess D, neither?
To be honest with you, the best division in the league right now, hot take, I think it's the Pacific.
Wow.
I think also the deepest, definitely Metropolitan, yes.
Okay.
But the best, and I think it's a shocker. I think you got to go look at the Pacific division, because I think, from like the way I look at it is this: I expect Anaheim to be in first place in the division entering tonight's game against the Chicago Blackhawks with 31 points. Who, by the way, they're tied with the Los Angeles Kings in the standings with 31 points. And oh, by the way, what's the gap between second place in the division, the LA Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights, who happen to be third? 1 point. 1 point. That's it. So it goes to show you that I think that division has been incredibly tight. But, last year you can make the case that it was the Central Division. And not to say the division is bad this year, because it's not. But Colorado's just been so dominant. But for me, honestly, I think the best certainly has got to be the Pacific right now. But the deepest, certainly the Metropolitan.
Yeah, the Central with Nashville has been bad, and St. Louis not playing all that well. That would have been my pick at the start of the season for the deepest. I don't know about that right now.
Right.
Let's move over to the Central Division for a second. Dallas tonight taking on the Ottawa Senators, and this was one where, similar to what happened with the Islanders and the Capitals, there were moments in the first bit of this game where Ottawa was toe-to-toe with Dallas. They were playing pretty well. There were even moments where you thought they actually might have the better of this here. And as they struggled to continue to solve Dallas's goaltending, Dallas fed off of that. And then when the floodgates opened, they just would not stop. Dallas gets the 6-1 win. Jason Robertson scores his 16th. Wyatt Johnston with a natural hattie. And we have the final word from Joey Erickson of Locked On Dallas Stars on this one.
Stars remain red hot as they thump the Ottawa Senators 6-1, and Wyatt Johnston registers his 4th career hat trick in the contest. He picks up 2 more power play goals. He's up to 12 on the season, which leads the NHL in that department. He's getting a lot of help from Mikko Rantanen, who continues to put on an offensive clinic. 3 assists tonight. The Stars score 6. They've been putting up 4 or more over the last couple of weeks regularly, and they just continue to grind down teams in a variety of different ways. The power play continues to be excellent. The 5-on-5 play is really coming together. Unfortunately, the Stars lost another defenseman. Liam Bichsel exited the game in the second period after a tough collision. That adds to a laundry list of injuries on the back end. Fortunately, the Stars do pick up the win, but another injury to add to the blue line.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate that from Joey there. And Dallas had kind of a weird start to the season, but they have been red hot of late. They right now are second in the NHL in points, which seems almost hard to believe because the way the season started, it was very up and down, and yet they've won 4 straight, and they are one of the best road teams in the league as well.
I'm not surprised. I mean, earlier we were talking about the Washington Capitals, riding the ship, so to speak, in the East. Out West, for me, that team was Dallas. I was like, hey, Big D, Stars, you all right? You all right out there? What's going on? And look, they won 4 in a row, and they're 5-0-1 in the last 6 games. And for me, I think about what Dallas has ultimately been able to do. They're able to find their game and play on their consistent brand of hockey where offensively, if it wasn't for Colorado right now, I think Dallas would be a juggernaut in the Western Conference, the top offensive team in the Western Conference right now. And like as you mentioned, Wyatt Johnston he scored a hat trick tonight. He also had an assist. So he had 4 points. But then also don't forget Jason Robertson. I feel like Jason Robertson tends to get lost in the equation a lot because he's surrounded by elite talent like Mikko Rantanen and Wyatt Johnston, for example. And of course, you can't forget about Rupe Hintz as well. So I think in this one, what you ultimately saw was a Dallas team that said, hey, you know what? We're going to turn on the Jets. No pun intended, by the way. and basically deliver boots to caboose, if you get what I mean. And that's exactly what you ultimately saw in this game against the Ottawa Senators, in which, listen, let's face it, they didn't have an answer. They didn't have an answer for what the Stars were doing offensively.
Once the floodgates opened, they really did not, and Dallas was dominant in the third period, which I always say you should never allow yourself, when you're the team that's down, if you allow yourself to get dominated when down in the third period, you've got some issues. And Ottawa has been certainly better after a slow start, but they've lost their last 2. I'm sure we'll focus more on them coming up. So I've got a game for us coming up when most of our listeners and viewers do get a chance to watch or listen to this. It will officially be December 1st. So when we come back from this break, we're going to get into our holiday wish list for each of the teams that played tonight. One item off the wish list. What can Santa bring for each of these teams? That when we come back here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Our show today brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, certainly did today. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update when guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season as we get closer and closer to the stretch run, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, let's get Santa's little helpers all fired up here. The Christmas wish list, and we're going to go in inverse order here as we tend to do in the final segment. So, Shu, the Ottawa Senators, this can be a player, it can be a coach, it could be something on there that they currently have on their team that maybe they just haven't been getting enough of. What is at the top of the Ottawa Senators wish list for the rest of this season?
Man, that's an interesting one because, like, it's been a year in which that they have been tested and tried with injuries. So for me, I would say health. Stay healthy, please. Like, if they stay healthy, I think they should be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. But here's the truth, though. This Eastern Conference wildcard race has been absolutely airtight. And you want to know why? The Philadelphia Flyers has had a lot to do with this. So for me, the Ottawa Senators, they need to stay healthy. If they can stay healthy, I think they will find themselves back in the playoffs. So I would say health being the top of the list for them.
No point in belaboring it. I totally agree with that. That's what my number one for Ottawa would have been as well.
Yeah.
They got to get healthy. Brady Tkachuk obviously is the big key, big part of that. There is that he's just got to be available to them for the rest of the season. Let's see what's at the top of the Dallas Stars wish list.
Ooh, that's a very tough one because they have offense, check. They have scoring. I mean, that's part of offense, obviously, check. Goaltending, check. The new head coach, it's working. So I would say just a grittier brand of hockey, because the issue for the Dallas Stars isn't making deep runs in the playoffs. They've gotten to the Western Conference Finals pretty frequently in this decade. The problem is that they haven't been able to get back to the Cup final since 2020, the Bubble Stanley Cup Finals in Edmonton. So I think a big part of it is just the gritty factor. So I think just playing a lot more sandpaper type of hockey once you get further deeper into the playoff rounds.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a cop-out because of the previous answer, but I'm going to say health, but with the caveat being it needs to be Miro Heiskanen. That guy cannot go down again.
Yeah,
that was a killer for Dallas.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
because like with him going down, I think it was an absolute game changer, if you ask me.
Yeah,
because
it totally was.
Because he's truly that important to the Dallas Stars. If he's healthy, who knows? Who knows? Maybe they get back to the Cup final, because I think, and it kind of goes back to like health, but also when he's healthy, playing a much grittier brand of hockey that's going to serve them well come playoff time. That's kind of like where I'm at.
All right, so top of the Christmas wish list for the Calgary Flames. Now, this one, I think this could be fun.
Oof.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna let you go first with this one, because I really do pity for the Calgary Flame fans. Like, like they're in a position where they cannot tank because they're about to move into their new arena soon. That's one. And two, they're not saying rebuild either. So I would say hope. It's got to be the top of the list for me. How about a little hope? Who knows if they even make the playoffs this year? I mean, we've seen crazier things happen in the NHL, so I wouldn't completely bury the Calgary Flames just yet. Call me crazy, but I would say, how about a little hope in Calgary?
Since we've been told that the vision is that they are not planning on rebuilding, they're not planning on stripping it down. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we've been told from the top. So how about we'd like for them to win some kind of trade? It feels like Calgary is constantly on the losing end of big trades. Let's let them win one for once. The stains of the Matthew Tkachuk trade still really, really linger. Let's see if Calgary can actually win one for once. Carolina Hurricanes, what's at the top of their Christmas wish list? What are the Canes asking Santa for?
for the Florida Panthers to not be in the conference finals. What should they get there?
Yeah, that's spot on, man.
I think every Carolina Hurricane fan out there would probably nod in agreement with my answer, like, yes, please, because it's not a question of will they make everybody. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be in the playoffs. Here's the problem: in 2 of the last 3 years, who's been in the way? Oh, that's right. That would be the Florida Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
So
and by the way, it was Tampa. So who's at the top of the division?
And also the Boston Bruins in 19. But but you're absolutely correct. So for them, just praying that Florida is not there in the conference finals, so they can actually get back to the Cup final, because they have not had an answer for Florida over the last few years.
The New York Islanders, other than wishing for a new and instantaneous ACL for Kyle Palmieri, what can they ask Santa for?
Scoring depth. I would say scoring depth, because, listen, you were already gift wrapped the biggest prize of them all in Matthew Schaefer, and he has been more than anybody could have anticipated. You knew that he was going to be a pretty solid defenseman, a franchise-type defenseman, but you didn't think that he was going to be this special this soon. So for me, for the Islanders, it's got to be scoring depth, because, listen, with all due respect to Bo Horvat and company, but he can't be the only one doing this by himself. He just can't.
Yeah, I think they took a real hit losing Palmieri. We'll see how that goes down. Washington Capitals, again, they've won 7 of 8 all of a sudden. What's at the top of what they're asking Santa for?
Alex Ovechkin staying 3 more years.
Love that. 1,000 goals for Alex Ovechkin. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Anaheim Ducks, what can they ask Santa for?
I kind of had a petty answer, but I was like, you know what? We're professionals here, so I would say for Anaheim is, man, if they could add another defenseman, I think they would be golden. I like what they have gotten from Jacob Trouba so far, but I think they can use one more blue liner to help them.
Totally agree. Someone preferably who can eat a lot of minutes would be preferable. And finally, and then we'll get out of here, the Chicago Blackhawks, what are they asking? I have a very, very unique answer for this one. What are they asking for Santa, though, in your mind, Shu?
Stanley Cup playoffs, please.
Okay, I like that one. I think in order to get there, what I'd love to see Chicago get would be a top 4 defenseman, someone who's just entering the prime of their career. I doubt there's any way to get there. Yeah, exactly. There's no way to get their hands on them, but if they could
they're all mostly locked up, Alex. That's
exactly.
why I'm like, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. They'd have to give up a pretty big prospect to do it, but that would be my vision for them, because their defense is so young. I think it's going to be a problem if they do get into the playoffs. Folks, if you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, I have good news. There's a Locked On NHL Team podcast and YouTube show for you, because we have one for every NHL team. And this show, Locked On NHL Game Night, is here for you each and every night of the regular season and the playoffs to wrap it all up with a nice bow. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this show. If you're watching on YouTube, we want to see your thoughts on tonight's games in the comments section. What does your favorite team need for Christmas this year? Is Connor Bedard going to hit 110 points like Shu says? We'll find out what you have to say in the comments in this one. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. For Shukri Wrights, I'm Alex Wiederspiel. Thanks for listening and for watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.